In this video, we're going to install a Jamco Deluxe Ultra Cruise Kit on a 1949 Ford Coupe. Welcome to part 2. In this segment, we are going to install the new Jamco front suspension. We have cleaned and painted the frame using some rust converter and black paint and installed a new bump stop in the frame for the upper control arm. The first step is to install the mounting bracket for the upper control arm. Using the countersunk Allen bolts provided in the kit with the lock nuts, bolt the bracket to the frame using the holes that attach the original control arm. A spot of Loctite on these fasteners is a little bit of extra insurance. Next, attach the upper control arm to the bracket, again using bolts provided in the kit. Check the photos in the instruction sheet to make sure you put the two spacers included in the correct position. The spacers go between the control arm shaft and the bracket. We recommend using standard non-locking nuts initially, as these fasteners will be tightened and loosened a number of times before the final wheel alignment. Once final alignment is done, replace the standard nuts with the lock nuts. Caster and camber will be adjusted on the upper arm by modifying the number of shims you put in between the front or the rear bolt. That will accordingly move the top ball joint forward and back in relationship to the bottom ball joint. Next, we attach the lower control arm to the cross member using the supplied hardware and existing mounting holes. Two alignment tools will help locate the arm. Again, a dab of Loctite is good insurance. Place the coil spring up into the spring pocket with the flat side up and the rubber insulator between the spring and the frame. Rotate the spring so that the bottom coil end sits against the stop built into the lower control arm. Place a jack under the control arm to hold everything in place. We have stripped the spindle brake assembly down to just the spindle for ease of installation. Set the spindle on the ball joint of the lower control arm and snug the nut. Take note of the shim on the stem of the ball joint. At this point, you may need a spring compressor to compress the spring enough to attach the spindle to the upper arm ball joint, depending on your spring choice. Raise the jack and attach the spindle again. Make sure that the bottom coil of the spring is aligned correctly in the spring pocket. Next, install the shock absorber up through the bottom of the lower arm using the included hardware. Now we can attach the backing plate to the spindle. And I guess we're going to find out that the retaining plate is not symmetrical. There we go. The bearing in the rotor will need greased and the inner bearing and seal will need installed. Mount the rotor on the spindle, snug up the spindle nut, and then back off a quarter turn. Add the lock cap and the cotter pin. Now we can mount the caliper bracket and caliper. Make sure to go back and tighten all the fasteners from the beginning of the job. Attach the brake hose and the steering linkage. But let's stick a wheel on there first and make sure everything fits up just like it's supposed to. Just like it was made for it. All that's left now is to repeat the process on the other side. Be sure to check all the grease fittings, make sure they're tight, and grease all the pivot points.